I've tested over 500 guitar exercises, and honestly, a lot of them are a complete waste of time. These 9 are the only ones that actually made me better. If you're a self-taught guitar player and your practice often feels quite random, or you're stuck at the same level, this is exactly why. I'm going to show you the 9 most important exercise concepts, but more importantly, how to actually use these in order to improve as fast as possible. If you want the exact step-by-step system that I use with my students, that's linked down below, but let's fix your practice first. Exercise concept number 1, this is all about minimal motion. Most players move way too much when they're playing both with the picking hand and with the fretting hand. And if your movements are inefficient like that, building speed is impossible, of course, but it will also lead to a lot of tension, string noise, and you will never be able to correctly synchronize your playing, especially at faster tempos. To get started with minimal motion, I would recommend starting out with the picking technique. Most guitarists pick like this. And it's nice to sometimes have that kind of attack. But if your goal is playing like this, so fast and clean, just start by picking one note, C, on the 5th fret on the G string, for example. And instead of playing like this, try to go for movements like this. So make the movements as small as possible. Almost like dribbling a basketball, very close to the floor. That will teach your picking hand that you can play very fast and controlled and don't need to pick harder in order to play faster. And for your fretting hand, I can really recommend exercises like this. So exercises where you use all of your fingers and you focus on keeping them extremely close to the neck like this. So it shouldn't look like that. All fingers are hovering above the strings. And I'm only pressing down with the one finger that I need for every single note. Now, exercise concept number 2, this one is extremely important. Synchronization. Most, especially self-taught players, train their picking hand and fretting hand individually without even realizing it. So your picking might get a bit faster, you might get better at hammer-ons and pull-offs, but it never correctly locks together. This is the difference between playing fast with a lot of string noise and actually playing clean and sounding professional. To start out with better synchronizing your hands like this, I really like this exercise approach. So just playing a quick burst like this, like ring finger, pinky finger, ring finger, index finger, ending with the ring finger. Those quick controlled bursts really brought together my hands. Most players make the mistake of going for very long scale runs right away. That will be great for building endurance, but to quickly synchronize your hands, I'd recommend alternating between simple patterns like this and lastly. So first I'm starting with my ring finger, then I'm starting with my index finger, and then I'm starting with my pinky finger. And I focus on each note being perfectly synchronized with every single picking stroke. Pattern number 1, pattern number 2, pattern number 3. That's the fastest and most effective way I know of building hand synchronization. Exercise concept 3 is something so many players ignore. Tempo ladder. Most people jump ahead way too fast, and in your practice routine you definitely need controlled steps, not guesses. I like to personally think of this as 3 different zones. And this is going to have a huge effect on your playing. Now, for those 3 tempo zones I mentioned for your practice routine, you want to make sure to practice exercises very slow to focus on timing and perfect execution with your technique. At 40 beats per minute, for example. So at this tempo, I can really focus on hitting the notes perfectly in time with the metronome, on working with the right picking angles, for example, keeping my fingers close to the fretboard. I'm not stressed out by pushing the tempo right away. I can really focus on perfect execution. The second tempo zone is what I like to call mid-tempo, so maybe around 100 beats per minute. This is where I really focus on working with my wrist, because that's exactly the tempo where most people start to tense up a little bit and they start working with their full arm, and where they see the flying pinky finger, for example. This is still in the comfort zone, so I'm not pushing tempo yet, but with zone number 3, I want to make sure to leave the comfort zone and to play at a very fast tempo. And that can definitely be a tempo where it sounds like this for you at the moment. So very sloppy. That's exactly the idea. You don't always want to practice what's comfortable for you. At the end of working on each exercise, you want to be in zone number 3, where things start to fall apart, because that's where you learn the most. Exercise concept number 4, this is where we push your speed. Burst training. Speed isn't built slowly. You have to touch higher speeds first, even if it sounds very messy, and then you stabilize them. So the concept of burst training is taking a phrase like this, and instead of infinitely looping it over and over again, you focus on playing quick bursts like this. And you focus on clean execution. Those quick bursts will unlock your faster alternate picking way more than long scale runs. And you can also isolate the problems better. Because for most players with a phrase like this, the problem will be getting from that note on the high E string back to the notes on the B string. So from that upstroke to the downstroke on the B string. And since I'm just working on one burst, I can really focus on that tricky part in the exercise and making sure I nail that movement. So if your goal is pushing speed at the moment, don't work on overly long, complicated exercises. Just take one simple pattern like this and practice it in bursts. Exercise concept number 5 is exactly what separates the professional players from the amateurs. And this is about string noise control. This is exactly why your playing still sounds messy even after years of practicing. Clean playing is controlled silence. Quick reality check. If you're just randomly practicing exercises like this, even if those are the right concepts to work on, you still won't improve. You need a system that tells you exactly what to practice, in what order, and how to progress. That's exactly what I just built for you. The full, easy to follow, step-by-step practice system based on these powerful concepts is linked down below. So string noise is a huge frustration for a lot of players. Just to demonstrate, they might get overlapping strings like this, or with legato. The notes might overlap like this, and there's a lot of noise like that when playing with distortion. The best exercises for fixing this revolve around finding what's causing the noise. Is it your picking hand fingers rubbing against the strings like this, or are you sometimes performing pull-off movements like this with your fretting hand fingers when there is no pull-off, resulting in overlapping notes like this? So this is a very analytical way of practicing, because first you have to identify the problem and then you build an exercise concept around fixing it. If it's the picking hand fingers rubbing against the strings or touching the strings sometimes, or the pick getting stuck in between the strings, you will need to work on your picking technique, of course. Lifting your fingers like this if you're playing with a closed hand, or changing the direction of your picking to not graze the strings. If it's your fretting hand, you need to work on exercises that keep your fingers close to the neck and curled like this. So sometimes people kind of touch the strings at a flat angle like this, sparring two strings at once, or creating these unwanted pull-offs. So a simple exercise like this might do the trick. Where you only use one finger at a time and you keep that curl. And once you have a dedicated practice block that's all about reducing string noise, you will sound much cleaner and more professional. Now step number 6 is extremely important when it comes to playing your favorite fast guitar solos, and this is probably why you can't play them yet. Chunking. Stop exclusively thinking in single notes. Think in patterns. That's how speed suddenly becomes easy. Now when it comes to chunking, this is all about practically playing really cool shred licks like this, for example. And instead of thinking of it as long, very long, uninterrupted line, you're chunking it into smaller bits and pieces. So the first chunk of that lick is that kind of lick. The second chunk is this ascending line. And then I'm actually just pairing these groups A, B, A, B over and over again. So A, and then B, the ascending line. And by not focusing on every single individual note in shredding lines like this, and instead training these chunks individually, you can pair those different chunks in interesting ways. If you learn 10 of these variations, for example, like including descending lines or other cool ideas, you can pair those chunks in different ways on the fly and create super interesting licks, even spontaneously when you're improvising. Exercise concept number 7 is where we transform your picking technique and finally take it to a professional level, directional picking. Your picking direction changes everything, especially when it comes to tricky string transitions. This is where a lot of people waste energy and get stuck with noisy, unprofessional results. Now for directional picking, what I would focus on especially is which picking angle you're using after playing the last note on each string so that you don't get stuck in between the strings. This is often referred to as pick slanting. So for example, if you play a downstroke as the last note on the G string and then you have to get to an upstroke on the D string, it's really great if your pick can escape from in between the strings like this instead of moving into the guitar kind of like this, getting stuck in between the G and B strings. So that kind of picking angle is great for this escape movement. This kind of picking angle is bad because I would have to jump over the G string like this in order to play the upstroke on the D string. So whenever you run into trouble with string transitions like that, just analyze what kind of direction you have to use after the last note on a string before you get to the first note on a different string. There are only two options. You can either go for that kind of angle, which is great after a downstroke on a higher string, or this kind of angle, which is great for an upstroke because your pick is in a great position to land the next downstroke, for example. Exercise concept number 8 is probably what's holding you back right now. If you feel like you can't push your speed any faster, tension elimination. If you're aiming for pro-level guitar technique, tension is your worst enemy. So if you feel tense at any point of practicing all these exercises, you're limiting your speed. Now for tension elimination, I would really focus on exercises that activate your wrist. I personally really like 2-note per string exercises for that. If you never did that before, you can just fret any basic chord like this and play 2 strokes per string. Focusing on only picking with the wrist like this, so not like this with a lot of tension, very stiff coming from the full arm. Really just from the wrist with minimal movement, while still playing fast, of course. That's not only a great warm-up, it's a great workout for getting rid of the tension in your picking hand. And when it comes to eliminating tension in the fretting hand, I love working with hammer-ons and pull-offs like this. When I do that, I focus on not pressing super hard with my index finger and on feeling every single finger individually, because most of the tension in the fretting hand comes from just gripping the neck too hard and pressing super hard with the index finger, which might result in tendonitis or wrist pain, and you also won't feel each finger working individually, which is what you need in order to play the lines like this. And concept number 9 is what everyone skips, but I dare to say that it's the most important one out of all these. System integration. This is definitely the most important one. Exercises don't work alone, they work together. And you don't want to get better at just playing exercises, you want to become a better guitar player, right? So these 9 are everything. Speed, control, accuracy, cleanliness, but only if you use them correctly. If you're serious about improving, please stop practicing randomly. The full step-by-step system is on my Patreon. Exact step-by-step plans, what to practice every day, how to actually progress. And there's also a limited, huge annual discount at the moment. 1 year of high-quality pro guitar training with me for what people usually pay for one semi-optimal private lesson. So right now is the absolute best time to join. Thousands of guitarists are already using this system and it works. If you apply this correctly, your playing will change fast. If not, you'll probably stay exactly where you are right now. So click below, I'll see you over there. So for step number 9, what I mean with system integration is that you don't just I always want to practice chromatic or semi-chromatic exercises like this, or workouts that simply sound really bad. You want to work on stuff that actually translates to your playing. So whenever you learn a cool lick, maybe it's time to try it out with a different scale that you want to learn and use, like harmonic minor. Or you want to move an arpeggio sequence that you learned through a key, going through the chords of the key. So if after hours of practicing you feel like you didn't play any music in your routine or anything that sounds very good, you need to apply more of a theory approach to a lot of these workouts to actually work on interesting scales, different scales each day. So working on a speed chunk like this, one day I might work in the A minor scale like I just did. The next day I might rather choose harmonic minor like this. Then Phrygian, then melodic minor, whatever I want to work on right now, to really integrate that into my playing so that I have some cool licks in any key and in any scale when I actually have to improvise or write a guitar solo.